Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club. As always, I'm joined by John Coates. How you doing, John?
I'm doing excellent, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing really great. We are on issue 102, and this week, the reason that I stumbled is because we have a very special guest. Your brother, John, James Coates. James, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on this week.
Hell yeah. So this is the first time we're having a guest on, and this is really cool. I'm loving every single bit of doing this show. And one of the best parts is now we have both of you on here. So that's friggin' awesome. If you guys don't know James, he and John have a series of books out called Dino Beasts, which is fucking awesome. And Ninja 4, right? Is it 4? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 4. And then James Galaxy Gods, obviously fans of the show know James from the episode that we did with Galaxy Gods. And you're slowly chipping away at number 2 now, right?
Yep. Number 2 is about 2/3 penciled, started on inks. So it's going pretty fast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you wanted to come in and kind of specifically talk about these next 2 issues. Do you want to say why these 2 in particular now, or is there a reason, or do you want to wait until we hit something in them?
We can wait. Briefly,
Okay.
there's some of I think these ones really feel like full-on Claremont, mature X-Men issues to me.
Okay.
He's really got a handle on the characters, and these 2, there's a lot of really interesting things that happen in them that I think are things that don't happen later in the series. It's some interesting one-offs that we don't see again. So
yeah, these are a weird pair of issues.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go. There are a couple of insert pages in the classic X-Men that we'll get to them, and I might need to edit them out because they might be spoilery, but we'll see what you guys think. All right, you guys ready? You want to take it away, John?
Yeah. So for all our intelligent, astute followers and readers, if you remember last issue, the X-Men minus sort of Jean Grey and Cyclops were on a nice Irish vacation visiting Banshee's hometown, where he owns a castle, which is amazing, and he never told anybody. And
As you do.
Yeah, in Ireland, like you do. And at the very end, they get captured by Banshee's evil cousin, Black Tom Cassidy, and his buddy, the Juggernaut,
who is Professor X's stepbrother. It's a family affair.
Yeah.
Of hate.
All kinds of good family hatred connections going on there. And so that's where we pick up with the action here on issue 102 with a killer Cockrum cover to start us off.
Yeah, that's a great cover. Does Black Tom and Juggernaut seem like a weird pair? It feels very random to me at this point. Maybe they develop it more, but
it does kind of seem random. But from here on out, they're always together, and I think it really adds something to the Juggernaut, especially.
Okay.
It humanizes him a bit because he shows up a few times in the pre-Claremont stuff, and he's always kind of a one-note, unstoppable, knock everything down kind of guy, and they have to use magic to send him to another dimension or do some other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he never really feels like he's got much development. Sure. So Claremont is introduces this friend for him, and then uses that as a way to start to give some character to Juggernaut, which turns out really great as the series progresses from here.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think of the green castle walls here? Very He-Man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
All I see is He-Man. Masters of the Universe, I should say.
And here we go with an awesome splash page to start off.
Yep.
Fight in progress. Juggernaut just crushing people like he does, taking out Colossus, Wolverines, face planting. And I just love this storm pose right in the foreground. It's an interesting pose, you know, just physically showing her anguish.
Yeah, she's crippled here on the ground. I love how Wolverine is landing on the ground too. That looks painful.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a good reminder also at the end of the last issue, Storm, because they were dropped into a dungeon, her claustrophobia, she was just thinking about that she was trapped under all this rock, and it just basically, she just cried out and it just kind of crippled her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's happened a few times now, but not as bad as this. Should also point out that Sam Granger is inking this issue. I think I'm finding that I'm liking his inks on Cockrum better than anybody.
Yeah, and he's definitely getting more cracks at it too.
Yeah,
he's sort of like the inker of choice, and he's really doing a nice job.
Yeah, but that is a great first page.
Yeah, what do you think of that, James?
I mean, it's amazing. And the one note I have is just Cockrum is one of those guys that on newsprint just sings.
Yeah,
like it's so good, like the way his art looks.
Yeah, I think it's because his work is, you know, comparatively simple. You know what I mean? Like he's got a simple line. He's not going in for like a lot of detail, and he's able to capture emotion and faces and do great things. But you know, also when he's working small, he's still able to capture that, and it doesn't lose its quality in the newsprint, which is awesome. All right.
And here we get sort of another angle from the fight. Juggernaut in the background. Now he's slugging. Nightcrawler is flying through the air. And we get the Banshee coming after his cousin, Black Tom, who just has this. It's a very simple design, but it's so awesome. I said before, it's like the anti-Banshee.
It is. And we learn here that that Banshee's powers don't work on Black Tom. And I think now that you said about the green of the castle on the cover, now I'm looking at Black Tom's bat on his chest, and it reminds me of the Horde so much.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about like this symbol. I mean, it's kind of bat-like, but it's also kind of got legs. So like, is it like a vampire? Like it looks more vampire than like a regular bat. It's very weird, and it is
very weird. Yeah, it's you can't really tell what's going on. It looks like there's a face on the stomach.
Yeah. You know? And like I can't figure out what it has to do with Black Tom either, you know, like he's not a vampire or anything.
Could just be an embellishment.
So, maybe that was part of like the original idea though, because he's got that high collar on the costume.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
just mimicking it kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they made Banshee and Black Tom have powers that cancel each other out. You know, like they did that with like Cyclops and Havoc, but like they're brothers.
Yeah.
But like these guys are cousins, but it still works.
Sure.
For some weird reason.
So in the mutant world, they've kind of established that if it's another mutant who's a close relative in some way, you know, once removed or whatever, that it doesn't affect you, and I wonder if they continued that throughout the rest of the series.
I don't think so. I mean,
No?
does Magneto ever face off against Quicksilver? Or
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Or like, yeah. Or, you know, like have Magic and Colossus ever gone toe to toe for some reason? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think they carried that on.
Yeah. Or
'Cause, I mean, it
Wolverine
doesn't-
and Sabretooth.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See,
What?
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Whoa. So yeah, so now with the cousins here having a little bit of back and forth, you know,
Yep.
calling each other names and stuff, and Black Tom telling him like, hey, none of you guys can beat the Juggernaut, even if you're combined. And also, I'm better than you are, Banshee. So what are you going to do about it? And the Banshee just leaps into him to just, yeah, let's see how you fare against a good old fashioned punch to the jaw.
That's right. Just gonna take him out. You know,
Yeah.
fighting Irish.
Yep.
And then we move on to the rest of the fray. So it's sort of
Mhm.
everybody else against Juggernaut here.
Yeah.
They're not faring well, and Storm is incapacitated. And I think Colossus is so worried about Storm that he's not really helping Nightcrawler or Wolverine out. So now it's those two against Juggernaut, who is, as we know, unstoppable in a fight.
Yep. And they don't know about her claustrophobia yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And Wolverine is ticked off at Colossus because he's not focusing on the fight. And he's calling him, what do you think you're doing, bub? And he's like, forget Storm, you tin dummy. We're the ones who are getting stomped.
Yeah. Here it's interesting because it's like in the absence of Cyclops, Wolverine is now the de facto leader.
Kind of,
especially
yeah.
when it really counts. So he's the one trying to rally the troops, be like, hey, no, we got to do this. Colossus is basically also incapacitated because he's so into Storm. Like
Right.
they're really building up, or maybe they're building up a romance or trying to like do something there, even though he's the strongest one. So like it takes him out of the fight immediately.
Right. Yeah. They've kind of been hinting at trying to build this romance between Colossus and Storm for, since their introduction at this point, which is interesting. Yeah.
And
then you're right. I think, he is kind of the de facto leader here, especially since Storm is, incapacitated, because otherwise I feel like she would have stepped up.
Yeah. And all through the issues, even up till this point here, and you see it again in this little moment between them, like Colossus and Wolverine are not friends.
Right. Yep. They're always at odds.
They are very, very much like not on the same page.
Mm-mm.
But we get sort of a reverse fastball special, kind of, and Wolverine swings Colossus around and just chucks him into the Juggernaut.
Yep.
Which
if you're gonna throw something,
yeah, throw the heavy metal guy.
Throw the guy who's not going to get hurt, right?
Mm-hmm. And then Colossus doesn't like that, so now Colossus wants to duke it out with Wolverine.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah. And Wolverine gets all you got to do is pick the time and place.
It's another great example of Cyclops' eyes on that second panel. The way that he draws it fully metal. It's
I made a note of that. It's the best looking Colossus.
Yeah.
Like
agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And and then the Juggernaut reminds him like, you guys are idiots, and he just like smacks Colossus through a wall. And he's all like, the Juggernaut can never be stopped. And then Wolverine here, for the first time, calls himself the mutant with the adamantium claws.
Yep. First mention, as far as we know, right?
Yep.
Rocky. Adamantium Rocky.
Yep, there it is.
Which something happens later in this issue. So here it's like he hits him with adamantium claws, but it doesn't phase him.
Right.
And then later he gets phased by something way weaker. So it's kind of interesting. It's like you need some plot holes to try to do something to the Juggernaut because you made him so strong.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why the Juggernaut's great, though.
Yeah.
You know, because anytime he shows up, you're instantly you're like, oh well, they're not going to beat him. They have to trick him somehow.
Mm-hmm. Good thing he's kind of dumb.
Yeah. So everybody's still fighting the Juggernaut, and Nightcrawler is trying to figure out what's wrong with Storm.
Yep.
And she's crying, she can't come out of it, and Nightcrawler's telling her, "We're being murdered, Storm. Why won't you help?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he almost gets his head just crushed into pulp by the Juggernaut here as he turns around.
Yeah, both of them are just missed.
Yeah, but he leaps out of the way.
And here's one of these, especially in this issue, where they haven't figured out what they're doing with Nightcrawler exactly.
Right.
Because he is in the bottom panel, it's like, oh, well, I can't keep away from him forever. Well, actually, you can. You can just teleport away from him. Like,
yeah, totally.
You're actually in no danger if you use your mutant ability because the Juggernaut's not faster than you teleporting. But they don't use it at all. It's all acrobatics, jumping around, and it's interesting. You're like, huh.
Yeah. Nightcrawler has so many powers, and he kind of gets more in this, as we will see here in these two issues. You know, like right here, he's just running up the wall. You know, he's got like Spider-Man stickiness to go along with his teleportation and his prehensile tail.
Right.
Oh, and now we're gonna get some good. We get some good Storm backstory here.
Ooh, this is interesting.
Oh yeah, is this one of your different pages?
Yeah, there's some insert stuff going on here that I'll flip to in a minute to kind of show the difference between our issues with my classic X-Men. But go ahead.
Yeah, so in the original here, so the Juggernaut, he decides he just grabs Storm by the hair and is basically talking Nightcrawler into coming closer by saying like, well, all right, I'm just going to kill Storm if you don't get down here. And then Nightcrawler comes closer and taunts him a little bit, and that's all the Juggernaut needs. And so he takes off after him. And then Storm is like in her own mind reliving her past that's caused her to have this claustrophobia. And this is the moment where by adding to her past, she kind of gets, I wouldn't say retconned already, but it's just tweaked a little bit by Claremont. So instead of being 100% African, she's 50% African.
Right.
Because now, you know, her dad was an American and her mom was from Kenya. And, you know, she grew up in Harlem.
Yep.
Well, she was born in Harlem as a little baby. There's Baby Storm. And then they move and go back to they move to Cairo, where they end up in the Suez War in 1956. And the place is getting bombed by, it's like British and French airplanes and Israeli airplanes and stuff. And this backstory is also cool because we learn that Storm is legit royalty. She's a princess.
Yes.
Her mom was an African princess, so therefore Storm would also be a princess somewhere.
So this is interesting. The pages that you have, the bottom three panels, they have changed in the classic X-Men issues. And you can see the difference here between the ones that I have and the ones that you have. The ones that I have, these are drawn by John Romita Sr. And the only thing that I can tell that really seems to change is that they're in Egypt, so that was right. And they don't make any, I don't think that they make any reference to who is bombing them.
Oh,
and that's
really?
basically it. Yeah.
Huh.
National rivalries. That's all that it says.
Oh, I wonder if they had an issue with stating that it was
Possibly. This is interesting. So we'll go to your next page and we'll see how it's different from mine. And we'll talk about it here in a second.
Hercules t-shirt. What?
Weird.
So yours the same?
No, it's not. Here, let me pull it back up. And it just looks like they got John Romita to draw it instead. And maybe, I don't know what's changed in it.
Why? Huh.
Why is right. Huh. Let's go to the original.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, and one of the airplanes that are fighting overhead, Storm's parents are trying to escape, and it gets hit, and the pilot parachutes out and just lets the plane crash right into the city, and it hits their house, and then we get little Storm in the bottom panel sequence here. She's trapped under the rubble. And we've seen this image in a previous issue where they showed us the image but didn't tell us where it came from. But now we've got it in context here. And she wakes up, and the arm in the foreground is her dead mother.
Wow. Okay. So that is not. Yeah. This is the same. This is the same story in the classic X-Men one. I thought that this next page on the right would make more sense now, or would make actually less. I thought it made no sense when I read it because of something that is said in the next page, but it's basically the same thing as said on yours. So it still doesn't make any sense. So they didn't change something that is said in this next page where it is like, she wakes up and like it says something about her parents abandoning her. Yeah. Why they had cruelly abandoned her in that, and do you see that in the top right box at the bottom? So I thought that because she sees her mother's dead. Her mom didn't abandon her. Her mom and dad got killed.
Yeah, those are two different things.
Weird.
I wonder if in Classic they did that because they were going to set up some kind of a weird story where her parents showed back up.
Maybe, but then why wouldn't they change the bottom of that right page to where she doesn't see her mother's hand? She just can't find them.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, that reads like it's like someone in the editorial office changed it before it went to print, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't see Claremont doing that. Like, that just seems just weird.
Yeah. And your Cockrum page is way more dynamic than this Romita page.
Well, because Cockrum is a better artist.
Yeah.
That's right. I said it.
I agree. Hey, that right-hand page, that pseudo splash page right there.
Yeah.
So this is a good example of, so when you see Young Storm, that's ElfQuest.
Yes.
Wendy Peeney was big into Cockrum and X-Men, and you get a big glimpse right here where she gets, especially like the desert elves and stuff from. I mean, that's pure ElfQuest.
That thought crossed my mind when I was looking at that, and I'm glad you brought it up. That's really cool. So that's real, huh? That's true.
Yeah,
that was a good call,
she talks
James.
about being a big Cockrum and fan and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in this page, she kind of wakes up from it and, lives on the streets for a while. And she's found by like this kind of like almost like a thieves guild kind of thing.
Yeah, this Ahmed.
Yeah.
And he teaches her to be a thief in Cairo, and she becomes like his top beggar sneak thief until she turns 12, and then she feels an inner need to pulling her south away from Egypt into Sahara, and she basically walks for a year, going 2,000 miles to the Serengeti. And considers that home then. And then that's where she lives until the professor finds her. So from age, 13 to, we don't exactly know how old she is when Giant Size starts, but you could assume she's at least in her mid 20s, late 20s even. It's like really kind of vague, but they kind of say that she's older.
So the next, here, okay.
That's great.
So,
there we go. We get a panel where we see it. Yeah.
Here we go. So this is an insert page, another Ramita page, where it just sort of like drags that story on a little bit. Another chance to show that, Storm doesn't like clothes. And just basically talks about how she, grew up with these people and used her powers to kind of like bring rain. And that's it. That's the extent of the issue, the page.
But she only brings rain apparently when they come and ask for it,
right?
As in Giant Size.
Yep.
And until Professor X steals her from them, so then they all die of drought.
Drought,
so,
right? Famine.
So now we jump away from our X-Men in Ireland, and we pop back in on our team. Well, our couple of people who are looking after Jean, who's recovering from her ordeal in X-Men end of 100 to 101, where she becomes the Phoenix. And the professor, he kind of hears in his mind that Storm's having problems. Like a little psychic connection there, and he sees in her mind the face of the Juggernaut, Kane Marco.
Bum, bum, bum.
So he freaks out, and now he comes into the Jean's room to try and get Cyclops, because he wants to send Cyclops back to Ireland to help out the rest of the team. And right here's a nice little note. Like Jean tries to introduce Charles to her roommate, which is Misty Knight.
Right. Is this the first appearance of Misty Knight or no?
No, I looked it up. Misty Knight's first appearance is Marvel Premiere number 21.
Okay.
In 1975. But then she shortly starts showing up in like Power Man.
Okay.
And then is in like Power Man and Iron Fist, and she dates Iron Fist a whole bunch. And so it's kind of a start of, there's like, for a little while, there's a little bit of this connection between X-Men and sort of Iron Fist type characters and stuff.
Interesting. So this street level stuff with this sort of X-Men where it's kind of kitchen sink everything.
Yeah. And Chris Claremont does write a good chunk of the original Iron Fist series. So he's, as we get into the run, we'll start to see a lot of instances where he's writing other books, and he will use that opportunity to introduce characters from those books into X-Men and vice versa, just trying to connect everything that he's working on.
It makes sense.
Yeah. But the professor is so the professor gets Scott out of the room. And this panel right here, this is a great, like really kind of dark panel here, where Misty is like, what's eating you, Jean? And Jean says, "Tell me, Misty Knight, how would you feel if you died, then brought yourself back to life?"
Yeah. And look at those eyes.
What? Yeah, she looks very inhuman right here.
Mm-hmm. Possessed.
Mm-hmm. And then, and then we get out in the hallway. The professor and Scott have an argument. The professor is a huge dick, and Cyclops is, a little bit of a dick. He brings up a good point that he's never going to make it to Ireland in time to really do anything. They're either going to win or lose without him.
So I had two things with this scene. Like, one, early on in these issues, I feel like Xavier is just like a really unlikable person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like him at all as a character. Like, he's really a terrible person, kind of.
He's been short a lot lately.
Yeah, really short-tempered. And later on that gets eased way down, and he's more of this real father figure that everybody loves. But he's not really like that early on here. And also, this feels like a part where maybe they're trying to write out Cyclops and Jean Grey and move them out of the main book. Like, they're not even, it's like, oh, I'm not going to get there in time. But, Claremont's slowly going, okay, maybe these guys are going to go do whatever. Maybe I move them, X Factor, whatever, put them on the back burner.
Yeah, I don't think that X Factor was in their eyes yet. In fact, I know that he did not want X Factor to be, he only wanted one X book, and that was it, and Shooter agreed, from what I understand, and then later was like, nope, we're pulling the original X-Men back, and Claremont was not happy about it.
No, nobody should be happy about that. That's a good observation there, James. Like, this is sort of that perfect storyline we talked about way back in like issue 95, where maybe you write out Cyclops and a certain Native American X-Man just kind of takes his place. But we all know what happened there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, instead you got Wolverine taking his place.
Yeah. They just sort of moved that character's.
Yeah, he's like the battle leader now.
Yeah.
And here we go. Now we're back to this slow building subplot of the professor going crazy, where he looks in a mirror and again he sees this weird alien helmet and stuff that he keeps dreaming about, and it's messing up his mind powers and everything. And we can kind of now see a face in there.
Yes.
It's the face in my dream. Do you recognize that face yet, Chris?
I'm getting there, because I think that, I kind of had a feeling of what it was, but we'll see if we decide to cut this out of this episode. But as I bring it in,
is it?
Yeah, well, we kind of get closer and closer, and we can really kind of see who it is here. They just kind of pull in closer, and they don't mention who it is yet, but you're getting a closer look at the face, and it's feeling more like who it ends up being, I think. So it's a moment where Moira has to come and sort of, calm him down.
Yeah.
And he said, and Scott says, I don't care what the professor told us. You're no housekeeper. She says, who I am doesn't matter right now. It's Charlie who's important. So, we're getting a hint that, she's more than just a housekeeper here, too.
I mean, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I mean, again, unnecessary, because it's going to happen, in a couple issues anyways. But
right. Yeah, they just needed pages, I guess. Filler. Yep.
Yeah, so now we're back to so now we got all our sort of B and C stories out of the way, and our Storm origin, and now we're back to the fight, back to the action, still in progress. Juggernaut still just rocking stuff. Banshee and Black Tom fighting in the background. Storm is still incapacitated. Nightcrawler still not teleporting and trying to get away.
Yep. But here's where fire hurts, or at least startles Juggernaut, where claws don't.
Yeah.
So that's like, but he's never weak to fire later. But you got to use something.
Figuring it out. They're figuring it out. Chris is figuring it out.
It's the weak spot, right?
Yeah.
You got to get him right in the eyeball, and then he'll feel it.
And Nightcrawler gets a new power in this page. Again, another new ability.
Yeah. So Nightcrawler swings in, takes this bit off the chandelier, burns Juggernaut right in the eyeballs. And then Black Tom uses his power, maybe for the first time we see, where he like shoots this energy blast out of his wooden stick that he carries around, and it KOs Nightcrawler, who falls. He falls hard and does not move again.
Oh my God!
Into the shadows, and the part of his body that is in the shadow has disappeared.
Oh.
Yes.
Check this out.
Oh, look at that. They did your favorite outlining there, Chris.
Well, the rim lighting of this doesn't bother me because it would be on one side. It's when you do it just around the entire perimeter of something like a chalk outline. But yeah, no, he didn't completely disappear. They redrew this panel so that he's not completely disappeared in the shadow, which is even weird.
They needed to retcon it in the 80s they wanted to get rid of that moment happened.
Well, doesn't he disappear in shadow? Doesn't he still?
Well, he's going to for a while, so it'll be interesting if in Classic X-Men if they continue to redraw all those panels or not.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's one of my questions, like to keep a track on, like when does he actually lose this ability? When do they decide, okay, Nightcrawler can't just be invisible in the dark anymore, along with teleportation and everything else he can do? Like,
also, how good is this costume that like the costume disappears? Like those unstable molecules, I guess.
Yeah, that Reed Richards is.
Even though this is his circus costume, though. I mean, he's wearing it when he's before he's ever recruited by the professor.
That's true, isn't it?
So the professor must have made him a new one to match.
Yeah, that's great.
With those molecules. Oh, so now we get into some more awesomeness here. A secret door opens in the castle wall, and some guys come out who look kind of small with pointy ears, and they grab Nightcrawler and take him away.
You've got robots and mutants, and you've got demons, and you've got like mythical characters, and then you got these like fantasy characters that are now showing up. Like X-Men at this point has everything, and we're barely even scraping the surface of the stories. It's got everything. And I was thinking, like as I was reading this, I was like, if you took the X-Men and you made them into just regular old people, this would still be a really fun story to read because of all the crazy shit that's going on around them.
It'd be like
Johnny, like a kitchen
Quest
sink
on steroids or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this issue is the 10th issue of the new team, including Giant Size.
Right.
So we're only 10 issues in, and it's had all this kind of awesome stuff just like piled on top of each other, and we'll find out, exactly who these guys are pretty soon. And then,
look at Nightcrawler's feet as they're dragging him in too. He's got a third toe, and I don't think that lasts. Like a backwards
you mean off his
toe.
heel?
Yeah.
That lasts.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
oh,
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that disappeared at some point.
You know, subsequent artists might draw it smaller.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on how, if they're having trouble, you know, drawing him standing with these weird toes or something.
Yeah.
You know, they might try and start to fudge it a bit.
And when Black Tom is talking to Banshee, there's one thing I wanted to ask you, John. So they talk about Banshee being an Interpol agent.
Yeah.
Have they ever explored that? And if not, why? Why isn't there a Banshee Interpol series?
That would be cool.
That would be amazing.
Just like Guile in the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
What? You know, I don't know, because like in Banshee's first appearance, he's a criminal.
But was he undercover though? Was he like, deep cover Interpol agent?
I've never read it. It's one of those like Arnold Drake era X-Men ones that just looks terrible. So I don't know. And he always I don't know if it's like he was Interpol and then he kind of turned to a life of crime, or maybe he got framed or something. But but this is where it's like, they start mentioning that he was like this Interpol detective. But no, they've never done like, I mean, you could probably have like some flashbacks of like maybe him with Nick Fury or something, you know, like doing some international crime team, you know?
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I won't say for sure because I haven't read when the first appearance, and maybe someone will know who's watching and they can tell us. But if they don't mention it in his first appearance, then I would think they're introducing it now as a way to like give Banshee like a more noble past or something.
Right. So here he sort of also like lets on that it's not just like trying to get the castle that he wants. What he really wants is just to kill him and kill the X-Men more than anything. And someone is paying them to do this. Like,
so there's a good little information drop from the Black Tom that somebody is paying them to turn the castle into this death trap.
Yeah.
And then the Black Tom just takes out Banshee, just gets the upper hand. And like he's happy, but Juggernaut is not happy because he says, "My vengeance won't be complete until my hated stepbrother, Charles Xavier, lies dead at my feet."
Yeah. And look at this panel of Colossus nailing him. That is such a good panel. He doesn't often do like hyper foreshortening, you know. You'll notice like even on like, I don't know. Well, I can't see, my cover doesn't look the same as yours, but there's been a lot of panels where, you know, it really calls for something like that, and he doesn't do it, and then he does it in this one, and it's super effective with the foot coming towards you.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wham. And Colossus is just fired up after that punch. "Get up, Juggernaut, and I'll knock you down again." And of course, the Juggernaut gets up and just, you know, smashes the floor out from under him and sends him flying.
Yep.
Because he says, I am a Juggernaut. Flatten me 100 times and I'll face you 101st as strong and fresh as ever. Woo, buddy.
I love this use of almost like the animation movement of like the flip of Colossus here. I love when artists do that. I am way too lazy to do that. Frank Miller did it like every 5 seconds in his Daredevil run, I think.
Yeah.
You know, but I love seeing that stuff. It's just effective.
Yeah, that stuff's great. This is also a good moment to remind everyone that the Juggernaut is not a mutant. He does make some comment, like calling them dumb muties and stuff at times. He's a mystical character. He's got a mystical jewel that he found in like the jungles in Southeast Asia, the crystal Cytorak or whatever, and it's embedded in his chest.
Oh.
And it turned him into the all-powerful Juggernaut.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he fights with evil mutants sometimes, like Black Tom and stuff, but he is not himself a mutant.
Wow, I did not know that. Cyclops really, really nails him here. In fact, so hard that well, no, wait, maybe not. Never mind. I'm speaking too soon. I'm gonna shut up. You guys go.
Yeah, well, Colossus, it looks like he's gonna get the upper hand, and he's just slugging away, and then like parts of the wall and stuff collapse, and then and Storm freaks out and yells Peter, which is a nice little reversal, because usually it's always been Colossus worried about Storm, and now this is like the first time she shows that she's worried about him ever.
Mm-hmm. And that's like what snaps her out of her funk. So again, it's like, oh, they're building this towards something with these two characters.
Right. Yeah.
Which doesn't go anywhere.
Right. And then the Juggernaut comes out of the rubble, and Colossus has failed. Right. He's out of action, and Storm has kind of woken up enough that she says she's going to teach, Juggernaut the meaning of the word power. And she tries to hit him with some lightning, but, she's not really into it, and it's really weak.
Yeah.
And he kind of hurls the lightning back at her and just knocks her flat.
Nice. Yeah, she hasn't totally snapped out of it. She's kind of half-assing it.
Yep. And then the Juggernaut's got the plan, because he still wants to kill Xavier.
Right.
So he realizes, well, Xavier has this telepathic rapport with all his students. So if we hurt his students bad enough, he's going to feel it, and he's going to come to us, and then we can kill him.
Yep. Lambs to the slaughter.
To the slaughter.
Yeah.
And Black Tom gets a good laugh out of that one. Black Tom. And that's how issue 102 ends, leading us into 103, The Fall of the Tower.
Bang, bang, bang.
So James, at the beginning of this, you said how like these two issues, you really feel like it's X-Men really starts to come into its own, like the Claremont voice, like it's really solidifying. And I agree with that. I think the last couple pages of issue 100, when Jean decides to fly the shuttle and get exposed to the radiation, that couple pages, that's like where the flip switches and the notch goes up, and all of a sudden it's like, we're here now. And then 101, right? And then 101, like a lot doesn't happen. It's all kind of like set up and getting ready. And then now we're on a mission. There's action, there's drama. It's like all has come together.
Yeah. And this is what X-Men feels like to me going forward. Even once other artists come on, it's like they're on missions. There's multiple things happening. You're finding out more about each different characters and different issues, but it's like go, 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 go. And that, which was what makes it so great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to pop up the classic one real quick. There's a backup story called Tag Sucker. And it's just about Wolverine kind of going through the city and feeling like his senses keep going off, like somebody's trying to get him, and leaves this bar. Hears a scream. This woman dies. What's going on? He like puts his clothes on, and he kind of explains his powers in here, because by the time they went to do this illustration or this story, Wolverine is all figured out by then, talking about his healing factor and all this stuff. And as he's here, you can see these brown hands with claws come up and grab him. You find out it rips his throat out and throws him into the sea. And he talks about how his healing factor, seals his throat back up. And it was just Sabretooth grabbing him and messing with him in the city. I'm going to rip your throat. Look at even torn out here. It's great. Kind of a weird one to pop in there, but they need to have something from everybody. So
was that John Bolton on that one again?
Bolton, I think, does all the backups until there are no backups. Art Adams cover, awesome as always.
Yeah, Nightcrawler looks like proper dead right there.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
and Wolverine's like even got blood coming out of his nose. And interior of better times or for Storm, man. I bet she's wishing she would have just stayed in Africa chilling out. But yeah, really cool. Well, that was an awesome issue.
Great issue. And if you wonder if it can get better in the finale in 103, you better believe it can.
And James, you're going to stick around for the next issue too, yeah?
Oh, heck yeah. I got to see how it ends.
Awesome. So before we go, James, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Instagram. You can just look up my name. I got a Patreon where I post some like in-process comics and stuff like that. And then at our website, dinobeasts.com.
Sweet. And are you going to do the thumbnail for this episode?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
I got it in the works.
Awesome. Yeah. So the thumbnail for this episode was drawn by James, guest thumbnail artist this week. Very cool. If you guys don't know, I'm a gigantor fan of James's work, and I have a very large collection of his original art.
Yes, the largest, I think.
That's right. That's right. On the West Coast, anyway.
Yeah.
And John, man, where can people find you?
I am also on the aforementioned dinobeast.com for comic books and at JD Coates on Instagram.
Cool. And there will be a whole thing at the end of this to where you can find me, but I will also put everybody's stuff in the show notes. So people go and check out the Coates brothers' work and grab their books if you haven't, because they're all friggin' fantastic. Until next time, when we talk about issue 103, get it ready because it's coming up quick. Just 1 week. And till then, later. Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else, plus score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door, and read my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson, is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.